This is Waga and welcome to the channel. As always, I like starting with asking you to like and subscribe. Let me just adjust the screen a bit, make sure that the entire simulator is visible. Like so. Okay, yeah. So we are going to continue making our chill app, our Tinder clone, our dating match app, however you may call it. And on the right we have the finished article. For example, yeah, just go a few. We can just look at a few features, and yeah, this is it. Oh, I just noticed that I should make the timestamp a bit more descriptive, like have the date, because this just says the time without giving you more information. Look at that. As always, this just shows the features that we'll have, but we'll improve them. We might even change the color, include a few things, make it better generally. So to the left, of course, we have our app in the state that it was, and we will continue from there. Today we'll be working with we'll create a user model, we'll create a repo, we'll look at Firebase a bit, and we'll finish up on authentication. Last time we looked at authentication and talked about block a bit. So we'll pretty much pick up from there. What to do now is we're going to build out our user model, which we will use in the authentication, and the user repository after that. First things first, we come to the models folder, and in it we create a new .dart file, and we can call it user, like so, and we hit enter, and we create the user class, and then we give it a couple of fields, right? So the first is going to be string, which is UID, which is unique identifier, and then we're going to have string name, like this, and another is the user's gender, because you have to declare your gender so that the person can say whether they're interested in you based on your gender. And after that, we're going to have, we could say interested in, we could say interested in, that is the gender you're interested in. And we could also have the photo, it's based on the photo, if you can remember. If you can come back here, let's just have a look. This is the matched user. You see the photo and the name. This one is called test1, and of course the picture of flowers with the name Romeo. So these are the people who have chosen you, and this is the matched user. You pick a person dependent on it depends rather on their photo, and we are going to import timestamp. We're going to do that so that you can bring in the Cloud Firestore, and we're going to use it to calculate the age. When you're picking somebody, usually when you pick somebody, it's usually their age. Normally the first thing you see about them is their age, right? Their age is also included. So, and after that we also have where they are, how far. The location will be like the distance. Of course, I have to figure out a few things about getting the distance to work. At some point I was hard coding it and things like that, but yeah, so we could just say that is going to be of type geopoint, and that is going to be location, like so. And yeah, just to see, let me see if I can log into another user. Let's see, which user was that? Let's try test1 at Gmail. I created a couple of users, but I've forgotten their sexes and whatnot and what they're interested in. So let's just try test1 so that you can see. We can see a few things. Yeah. So for example, you see Juliet, you see the distance that she is away. and if we could reload this, you'd probably see the distance. I don't know why the distance takes a while. It takes a second or a blip to actually record, but you see her age. So based on your birthday, we'll calculate the age, and we can like or dislike, right? So let's just exit and come back and say, let's log back in as password, like so, and say at gmail.com, hit password, like so, and so still Juliet, and yeah. So basically, this is what we're going to have, and then after that we can create. Let me come here. We can create a named constructor. We can create a named constructor for this. So for that, we could. How do you normally do it? I know there's a shortcut, and I always say use the shortcuts if you can. Generate. Let's just get a constructor. Let's click on all of them. Save on time. This is the IDE's job. Oh wait. I just messed it up. Let's come down here and we come to generator, like so, and hit generate, and we can get a constructor like so. Okay, hit OK, yes, and can make it named like so. So yeah, basically this is the user model that we're going to use, and now we move on to the user repository. To create the repository, I'd like to say a few words about Firebase. So maybe if you have you're not very familiar with Firebase, you can at least come to grips with it. The repository will abstract all the details of logging in this case, logging in to Firebase. So that is what we're going to look at. So we would come here and we would go to our Firebase console, and we can hit the console, and we can have a look at how Firebase works. Firebase is a NoSQL database. It consists of collections of data, and collections and documents can have collections like that. So this is what we're building right now, chill, and previously this incarnation of it was called hanging. That's what I started off with, a name like hangout, hanging. So if we click on it, we can see how the data is organized. We could come to database. We could first come to authentication. As you can see, these are the users. There's Taste, there's Romeo, Test1. Oh god, I clicked on, yeah. So these are the users, right? And then the database. The database has two collections. They're the messages that users send, like this, oh, user funny, and image. And they're also the users, information about the users. So for example, in this, we have a user, we have the age, he was born on, this is the earliest age you can put, like I explained. You have to be at least 18 to be on our app. The gender is female. They're interested in males, and their location is, this is a geopoint, and their name is, in this case, this is a test account, and the photo URL connects to a Firebase storage. There are some things we have stored, some images, mostly the default images on iOS and a few images I added on Android. So these are the user photos and these are the messages. So these are the two storage buckets that we use for user photos and messages. So yeah, basically that's how it works. That's how it looks like in the back end. So if we come, these are the users now, right? Did we go through all the, yeah, and the UUID is this. So if you take this UID, which is HMU, if you go to messages, I'm sure you can get one of the messages by HMU. Can we do that? Sender ID. Can we pick out a message? I don't know. So I don't know. We don't have a message by. Oh, yeah, here we have. So this message, you see, this is how we link the user and the message. So the sender ID is HMU, and using this you can identify the user who sent this. And the photo has a photo URL which is stored in the message bucket. If we come back to storage, you can see the message. The message is here in the messages bucket, and yeah, so each photo, some photos have images, like this one has a photo URL of null, but all of them have sender ID, the sender name, and the text and the timestamp of when it was sent. And some photos actually have photo URLs, like you see, this is a photo URL that allow us to connect to that. If you send a photo, you get a link to a picture in the storage. So that's what we have here. So this is basically Firebase, and as you can see, messages has collections, and collections can have documents, but documents can have collections, so you can nest them like that going forward. So I think next we can now start working on our user repository. So next is to build up the repository. The repository will basically have the methods that we would use to log into Firebase, get information about users, sign out, and later on, we won't implement it now, but we'll leave space for creating a profile. We'll do profiles a bit later on. We haven't even gotten some of the packages we need for that. We need the icons package and things like that. Yeah, so what we would do is we would come to the repositories and we would create a new Dart file. Come here, and we could call it user. Let's call it user repository, like so. User repository. Hit enter, and here we have the user repository. So first, we are going to use Firestore and Firebase auth. If you can remember our packages. Oh no, this package should go to pubspec, the YAML. So we're going to use Cloud Firestore and Firebase auth, right? So for that, Firestore, this is for the images, storing images and stuff. So let's come back to user repository, and first things first, I'm not going to mention when we are importing these things, like some of them are automatically imported, so I'd try and mention it, but if I forget, I hope you're with me. So we could call it user repository, like this, and we're going to have a few final fields. We could say Firebase auth, and you see, like that, we have imported Firebase auth, so I won't mention imported. The ID does a bit of work for us, so we could call this Firebase auth, like so. Create a few private variables, and we call final Firestore, like so, and we have Firestore, right? And of course, the user repository will have dependencies. Will have a dependency on Firestore and Firebase auth. If Firebase and Firestore are not injected into the user repository, then we want to instantiate them or start them, initialize them internally. This is to enable us to mock instances so that we can test. It's the pattern that is normally followed, particularly by when you read the documentation. So that's why it's done like this. There's an example in particular that I followed with this, and basically that's what we're going to use. So we're going to say user repository, like so. and we're going to say Firebase auth, comma, and Firestore, like so. And then we're going to say Firebase auth equals Firebase auth, and if it's null, that's what this means. You get back a Firebase auth dot instance, like so. And we put a comma here, and we can go to Firestore, and we can say Firestore dot instance. So we get back an instance of Firestore. If they are not injected into the user repository, we just start them up internally. So the first method we're going to create, or the first method we're going to look up, is the one that allows us to sign in with email. And first it returns a future, and the future is basically, if you know JavaScript, it's basically a JavaScript promise. And the first one will be allow somebody to sign in with their email and password. So for that, we could just say future, like so, void, we call it sign in with email, and it takes in an email and a password. We could say email and a password, like so. And it returns Firebase auth, and there's a method on there called sign in. Is it sign in with email and password? Here it is. Sign in with email and password, and the email here is going to be email, and the password is just going to pass along the password. Like so. So this method is just going to be, it will allow our users to sign in. And after that, oh sorry, my timer has just gone off. I usually time myself doing things. We're going to check if when you log in, after you sign up, you're going to have to fill in the profile form with your details of who you are, what you like, what you're looking for, and an image plus what else? Plus your age and your location and things like that. We don't want a user to fill all that in the beginning. We just want them to give them an email and a name. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check whether that email actually exists, that whether the user ID has been created for that email. So we are going to check our users in the Firestore collection if that person exists. If not, we're going to move forward, and we're going to use a flag to check whether or not they exist. So for that, we can say future, an object future, which is going to return a boolean. We call it is first time. Check whether this is the first time. It's going to be of type string. We're going to pass a user ID to it, and this is going to be an asynchronous function, like so, async. So we're first going to create exist to check, so exist, and after that we're going to await async await. We're going to say Firestore dot instance. We're going to get an instance of Firestore, and we're going to reach out to the collection with the name called users, like so. And in that collection, we are going to get the document, a document, and the document, we're going to use the user ID, pass in the user ID, and in that we are going to get dot get, and then we're going to have a then, and taking the user, and dot get is going to return the user, and we're going to say exists equals, we're going to set user exists, whether it will be a boolean from the get, so user.exists, we could say user.exists, and yeah, so it's going to dot get, get is going to check if a user exists, and then it's going to put in exists either true or false, depending on whether the person is actually extant, whether they exist. So, and we are then going to return the exist, true or false, check whether they actually are. And after that, now we're going to come to the meat of the matter, which is signing up with email, right? So for that, it's going to return a future. It's going to give a future object, and we could say sign up with email. It's not sign up with email, and we could it takes in the email, string email, and the password, not spelled it correctly, password, and it's going to be an async function. And first we could maybe print so that we can see something. We could say Firebase auth, like so, and then we are going to return await underscore Firebase auth. This is a method on that, create user with email and password. The email is going to be email, and the password is going to be password. We're just going to pass it along. The password, yeah, like so. And after that, we're going to create a sign out. The sign out button is this app exit. This is what we're going to connect it to. So for that, we're going to come down here, and we could say, I'm guessing you're getting into the groove now. We could say sign out like so, and this is going to be an asynchronous method as async, and we are going to say return like so, and we're going to say await Firebase auth, and we're going to say dot sign out. These are all methods that are on Firebase. So we could say, and then after that, one thing we need to do is check if somebody signed in. Yeah, we need to conduct checks whether a user is already authenticated, right? Like when an app is loading, like if we have a cold start, like if I exit this, I shut down this simulator and restart it, it will bring us back to, it will take us to the search page, right? And instead of somebody logging in, if I don't log out, if I log out of the app, it will start at the beginning with the login screen. But if you've already logged in and you turn off the simulator and you turn it back on, it's going to return you to the search page. And the reason I'm not showing you this is I don't want to log out of Android Studio to show you that, but trust me, that's how it works. So we say is signed in. So is signed in will just check whether a user is already authenticated, so that we don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of having to sign in again. So that will be, it will be a boolean, to return a boolean. Boolean, and it's called is signed in, not capitalized. And this is an async function, and we can create a couple of fields. We could say current user equals, we get firebase.auth current user, and we're going to return current user if it is not equal to null. So then we're going to return it if it is not equal to null. So yeah, this is going to give us a boolean. So yeah, let's give it a bit of space. If you're coming from Swift, or if you've ever programmed Swift, you know that it's very finicky about putting space next to operators, like when you're assigning stuff. So yeah, it's best to keep everything as it should be. Yeah. So after that, we can get the user. Like, we could have a method just where we get the user, and we get their ID or something like that. So we could say this will return a string, which will be the unique identifier. So we could say string here, and of course you could put comments. I'm not putting comments, I'm explaining what it is, but if you want, you could like put comments and stuff. And yeah, I just yeah, I'm not going to put comments, but you can add them so that you can check. But all this is very well documented in Flutter Bloc. If you could just go to Flutter Bloc, you will see perfect examples of various scenarios that you can use Flutter Bloc in, and it's very well documented. Of course, the problem is the current documentation is 4.0, and I swatted up on 3.20, so I'm already obscure, and it's already obscure for me, and I'm a dinosaur. I trained in 3.2. I built this with 3.20, but like I said, at the end of this, when we finish building this, I will look at the new documentation and update it. So anyway, interesting detour. Let's get back to work. Await, we could say Firebase auth.current user .uid. Basically, those are the methods. Those are the methods that we're going to put in our user repo. There's another one, but that one will require us to have started creating our profile, and we'll get to that in a bit, right? So these are the methods that we need right now. There's another one which we will set up. We can call it profile setup, and that will be in the coming videos. Now the next thing we're supposed to do is we're just supposed to go and sort out the authentication, and we go to these files that we built up. Wagga here, Wagga from the future. Originally, when I was recording this video, I recorded both the user repositories and authentication together, because I thought that it wouldn't take as much time. But when I checked the runtime at the end of the video, it was more than an hour. So I decided to split it into two. So this is the end of the video, and we will end at building the user repository, and then in the next video we will continue with the authentication. So as always, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.